All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of FOSS. Sorry for startling you. Um, I hope that everyone had a great day yesterday, and today, thank you for coming early and kicking off the day with us. And we hope that our upcoming session will be a fantastic and energetic start to the FOSS track. So today we will be having, sorry, Seongsoo and Yoonsoo from the Open Infra Korea user group, who will be talking about empowering OpenStack upstream development in Korea. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And it's quite early for me. And normally I don't have a phone call in this time. But I'm do my best for my talk. So we are from the Open Infra Korea user group, and we are today we are talking about how we empowering the contributing the OpenStack in South Korea. So I will introduce what is OpenStack for who doesn't know about the OpenStack. So OpenStack is an open source for the for making the virtual machine or container or bare metal in your infrastructure. So if if you want to have your own private cloud, the OpenStack is the best choice for now. And of course, the OpenStack is very good for the cloud native system or the open source based on infrastructure. So before we start, I will introduce our user groups and what kind of activities we have. So the Open Infra Korea user group was created in February 2011. So it is just 1 year after the OpenStack was born in this world. So at the first, our user group was name was the OpenStack Korea user group, but for now the name has been changed as an Open Infra. Because the OpenStack Foundation, they are changed their foundation's name in Open Infra Foundation in maybe, as I remember correctly, 2020. And our user group is official user group of Open Infra Foundation for now. So anyone in South Korea can join our group, and you can learn and share the knowledge of what is OpenStack and how to use OpenStack and each ecosystem. Then, why we want to contribute to OpenStack from the user group? As you know, the user group's main activities are very important in their open source community. Yeah, of course, the OpenStack Korea user groups activities are very important to the OpenStack community. But most of our activities or most of user groups activities are mainly locally. That means uh, if someone are joining the Korea user group, they can meet only the Korean, not the global communities. So we want the Korea user group to meet global developers and users in the other countries, because we want to know more knowledges and more experience about the OpenStack. So I think about that for years. Then my opinion is the source code contribution is the most direct way to participate in the OpenStack communities. Of course, the user group activities such as having a meetup or having a study group is also very important, but contributing as a source code is most direct way to meet the global communities. So then what do you need for the contribution? And as a community organizers, what do we need to empowering the contributing the OpenStack to our communities? the OpenStack communities, the OpenStack global community provide the OpenStack upstream institute. So you can learn how to contribute to the OpenStack and how to use our tools. Basically, we don't use GitHub to managing our source code or reviewing our issues. We use the Get which is made by the Google, to reviewing the source code and to managing the issues, some kind of bugs. We mostly use a Launchpad, which is made by the Canonical. Yeah. So before COVID-19, the OpenStack Summit officially hosted the Upstream Institute program the day before the main summit. We have a global summit every year, but before the global summit, the foundation held an Upstream Institute program to the whole attendees. And as far as I know, each user group is also holding an upstream training event in their local. So of course, the Korea user group have been about 4 or 5 times to about the upstream institute. In this guide, you can use the training repository, each named sandbox. Since you should not send a patch or send a bug to the actual OpenStack project because you are still the beginning, still the beginners. So you can practice the code review and how to send a patch with this repository. So the sandbox project is such like a playground for the trainees. But however, just practicing in the sandbox repository is not enough because you need to learn, you need to know a lot of things to do an actual contribution, such as writing the test case or using the talks to build the whole project. And you also need to know how to write the document in the OpenStack repository. So we decide to try real activities about how to contribute, and as a community organizers, we decide to contribute to the real OpenStack project. Yeah, it is not a easy way, but let the organizers take action first. And then we can tell our community members to, okay, we can contribute to the OpenStack, even though you don't know about the OpenStack. So, but fortunately, the one of OpenStack project maintainers lives in South Korea about maybe 4 years ago. So he was a Searchlight PTL. The PTL means the project team leaders. So if we send a patch to the Searchlight, maybe he can review very quickly and merge our patches. So that's a good chance for us. This is his name, but I don't know how to pronounce name of this side. But he called me he called Jin, so I call him Jin. Anyway, the Jin was a subject PTL, and it was about the 3 months program to how to contributing to the Searchlight and how the source code looks like. So actually, we did not contribute much patch, only maybe in my memory about the 2 patches, but we were able to study various knowledge necessary to contribute code to the OpenStack. Yeah, it is very difficult to the GitHub-based open source project because of GitHub-based open source project using the pull request. So, but in the Get you have to use different tools. So it is called a Git review. So the every patch is amended just before the last commit. You cannot commit every change. You reuse the last commit with the Git commit that's amend. And while these organizers were studying together, the Korea government made a really interesting program. So it is Contribution Academy. Sorry for the it is written in Korea, but you can read the English just right side on the Korean title. So its name was the Contributon. So Contributon is a combination of contribution and marathon. So the it is this program is focused on the how to contributing to the open source in South Korea's student or programmers. This program is hosted by the Ministry of Science and ICT in Korea, and it aims to student and open source worker who wants to contributing the open source, but don't know the how, and even they don't have a time. This program has a mentor. The mentor is some kind of maintainers or committers of some open source, and mentors are introducing their open source to the mentees, and the mentees are applying the project or project what they want to contribute. And we brought up the courage to mentor this program about 2020. Yeah, and this time we are 20. Yeah, for 5th times. So we already know about the how to contributing the OpenStack, and we do a real activities to contributing the OpenStack project. But can we be a mentor for the OpenStack project? First, we had to choose which component we are going to target. This is the landscape of the OpenStack. In the red box, this is called the core component. If you want to make some virtual machine or containers, those you only set up those components in your physical machine or virtual machines. So, and most of people wants to contribute in the core component because it is very essential component, and it is some kind of very nice to showing the other people's, but it is very difficult to contributing directly to this component because you have to know a lot of things. For example, the Neutron is a networking component to create the virtual networking in our data center. If you want to set up this component, or if you want to lead the code, the Neutron, you have to know about how the computer networking works and what kind of the virtualization of networking are here. So most of our mentees are university students, so they don't know much about the networking things. And even though they want to contributing the Nova, it is the computing component. They don't know about how to create the virtual machine with the KVM. So we at the first year, we are talking to our mentees. Okay, you can contribute those projects, but anyone can contribute, and anyone can set up their developed environment. So we decide to the other component to make it easily to contributing to the OpenStack. So we found these sections. This section is about the client tools. So OpenStack client and OpenStack SDK is the best option for us because in this project, you don't need to learn, you don't need to know much about the OpenStack. You just know about how to use REST API or how to write the code by the Python to use these OpenStack APIs. So Yeah, SDK and client are easy to understand the code structure and flow, and it is good for studying OpenStack and contributing code at the same time. Oh, yeah, because the OpenStack client is just a client to use the OpenStack. So you can learn the what kind of features in OpenStack and how to use them. Okay, so for now, we will listen to the story of Yoonsoo. The Yoonsoo was the mentee in 2021, and now he became a main mentors of our upselling contribution program. So please big applause to the Yoonsoo, and let's hear his story. Thank you.
Hello, hello everyone. My name is Yoonsoo Rim. I have been working at NH Cloud since 2021, and I operating cloud system based on OpenStack. And I have been contributing OpenStack until now from 2020. I like to exercise on my free time. Mostly CrossFit is my favorite, and I do tennis time to time. Okay. Uh, the first time I met OpenStack was through my university graduation project. I created an educational platform using OpenStack to practice hacking and security. As an undergraduate student, reading and studying OpenStack was very difficult. Especially at the time, the only resource I had were a few computers with 2 cores and 6 GB of memory. I had created an OpenStack cluster with this resource. At the time, there wasn't much information about OpenStack in Korea. So the only place I could ask my questions was the OpenStack Korea user group. So I posted it a ton of questions and got a lot of help. And fortunately, I had the opportunity to meet with the community organizers. Uh, so I posted a lot of questions on the community. So the organizers were curious how I got to know OpenStack and studying it. So I was invited to OpenStack birthday party held every July and shared my story with community. And there I was introduced to the Contribution Academy, where I could directly contribute to OpenStack and apply to become a mentee. Also, I only knew how to use OpenStack. There were difficulties I encountered and contributed to OpenStack for the first time. Since I knew how to write Python code, it wasn't difficult to read the code and figure out how it worked. And it was also possible to add new features. However, the moment I finished implementing the new create a feature and was about to make my first commit, there was one thing blocking my work. This test case. This is difficult. That our mentees face every year. Then we develop with usually focus on functionality. I knew concept of TDD, which involves developed by create test case, but I had never actually tried it. However, Open source ensured stability and trust based on test case. Create test case was a very difficult task for me. So rather than finding and resolve issues right away, our team decided to run by creating a practice process for contributing code. We learn about the structure and behavior by add simple code to features what already had. Through this process, we could learn the OpenStack client and SDK code structure. And with the minor feature I added, the exist test case naturally varied. So I pasted the fed test case for the new minor feature. Through this process, we could learn test case structure. With this process, most mentees were able to how to read existing code and write test case very easily. Okay, now ready to contribute. Let's find the issues from storyboard and solve it. Could we have done it? It's not like that. There were many issues, but didn't know how to solve. Some issues are so old that they are impossible to reproduce. It was a difficult problem beginner. It was difficult to even understand the issues without using OpenStack or without know much about it. We had to find other ways to make easier for our mentees to contribute. Fortunately, the OpenStack client has features that even beginners can easily contribute to. OpenStack client integrate the CLI that each component has. Then there will be instructions that have not been implemented yet. There was table mapping, component CLI, and OpenStack client. There are many things that haven't been implemented yet. We decided to implement these things. This was very easy and fun to develop. Rather than service on issues someone else had posted. We have been mentoring on this topic for 2 years. The year after I served as a mentee, I received an opportunity to be a mentor. I wasn't to prevent others from experiencing the trials and errors I went through as a beginner. So I understood their minds best and knew what they need. But the most important reason was there was no big reason. I love OpenStack. I hope there are more people using OpenStack, and I hope this open source continues for a long time. With that in mind, I decided to become a mentor, and I continue to so to this day. Thank you for listening to my story up to this point.
Okay, so what's the next step for our journey? So this is our achievement from the 2020 to the 2022. So at the first, we just only sent us only 3 patches and one bug report and 2 issue comment. But in 2022, we this is a very big step. So to 2021, we implemented about the 8 new commands, as Yoonsoo mentioned before. And in 2022, we added the three new commands. But this is the very important. This 8 new command is only for the client. These 3 command is both client and SDK. And then the last year, this is a very big step for us. We suggest a new feature about 12 new features. This is a very incredible. This is not from the open source maintainers. This is come from the our mentees. Okay, I have only 10 seconds. Thank you. So in 2024, now I'm retired as a mentor, and we have 4 mentors in this year. So whole mentors are transitioned from the mentees. That means the mentees become a mentors about during the 4 years. So this is our very good achievement of our contribution academy program. So we are writing new history again. And as a user group, so our goal is the beyond the user group. So we want to become a group that we're creating the open infrastructure together with the global communities. So okay, thank you for listening our stories. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask us. And we have a booth on the 2nd floor, so you can visit our Korea community booth to talking about how to contributing the OpenStack. Okay, thank you so much.
Is our next speaker here, Anubha? No, not yet. In the meantime, does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So you actually using OpenStack and mentioned about the open infrastructure. So I was wondering, do you care in one time your own cloud cannot interact at all, not because of use, because of something else? So for example, when do you ever care about the case your cloud freezing? Like we have VN Direct in Vietnam currently. We cannot interact anything with the infrastructure from VN Direct. So because you use the word infrastructure, not that only cloud. So I thought that you will have something to protect your facilities as well. Can you say any idea about that, please?
Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a very difficult question for me, but sorry about the question for because oh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. In my opinion, there's some kind of problem in the open source, but yeah. So in the OpenStack, there you can issue the problem to the OpenStack communities, but you can send a patch to them directly, or maybe as I know, there are some priority to solve that problem for now, but we are still the beginners of the contributing the OpenStack for now, so I don't have any idea for your question for now. But maybe that we can discuss more about our post. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Thank you for your experience on the OpenStack journey. My question is what is the pain point for reading OpenStack code? I contribute to the OpenStack project and looking at the GPU things, and I check the normal code, and it's very, very complex in the Python code. So, my question is, what is the pain point to reading the source code?
For me and also the Yoonsoo have the same pain point for the reading code. So we can read the code, but don't know how it works, and the why the developer write the code like that. That's very painful. The only one painful for the reading the source code, because in the work, I can ask my boss or my friend to the why this code looks like this, but I cannot ask that to the open source or OpenStack developers. So that's the very sad sad for reading the source code.
So I agree with you. In my case, I just got paid for OpenStack and the vendors, so we just got paid that for implement code.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult for reading and wrong reading and writing the check.
Yeah.
And the code working is a very important element
Yeah, and writing a new code also difficult for the first time, because I write the code in my thought and in my experience, but for the maintainers, my code seems like not good, or need to improve to improvement more improvement. So but this is some kind of practice. So the reviewing my source code every day and got a feedback from the maintainers. I think that is very important thing to contributing to open source. Yeah.
Let's get started without a further ado. I would like to introduce about GirlScript Summer of Code, which is an open source program that we started 6 years ago. So I'll be telling you a story of how we started it, what is the program, what are some success stories, and yeah, let's do this. So before we get started, I just wanted all of you to get excited, just see the numbers of what we have done so far. We had around 90,000 participants from last 6 editions from around 14 countries across the globe. Last year, if we talk about 2023, we had around 17,000 participants who were beginners in open source, never heard about open source, never contributed to open source, never heard about GitHub or anything at all. And then they ended up, contributing to 100 plus projects. I would like to tell a few stories before we deep dive into the program, just to get you excited. So we have Yati here in the first photograph from the left. She started in our 2018 program in the very first edition. Red Hat was the sponsor. She was a top participant in the program, and then she got hired by the Red Hat as a developer, and now she's working with IBM in one of the Red Hat's projects. So she belonged from a tier 2 city, never contributed to open source in India, and not into a very premium university or college, but then her life changed automatically just by participating in the program. Then we had Jeel. She also belonged to a tier 2 city in India again, and now she works as SD2 at Walmart. And this year, in 2023, like last year, we got Kashish, and she is now getting an offer from Goldman Sachs to work as a developer. This is one of the top 3 contributors review from last year. And she appreciates the team of what the work we have done, and now she is working actively in the industry. So we are not just bringing women. The program is open for all. GirlScript is an open for all organization. I just didn't want people to have any bias with just name, and not think that it's a girls only or women only organization. So even men can participate, but we have equal number of women developers as well. And this is the first time we are achieving these kind of numbers in any technical program. We had a lot of sponsors, hundreds of them, and they really helped us, supported us throughout the years, and we are really grateful for that. So why we started the program, or why we needed any open source program, for beginners? There were already many programs. You might have heard about biggest of the programs like Outreachy, Google Summer of Code, all of it. And when I started GirlScript Summer of Code, people thrashed me a lot on social media. They told me that you are just copy pasting any program. But my motto to start this program was there was lack of any beginner friendly program. So for example, if you want to apply to any bigger program right now into open source, you need to know what GitHub is. You need to know how to make a contribution. You need to know how to apply for a particular project, and then you get shortlisted among those people. So you have to compete as well. But here we wanted no bar. We wanted people with legit applications to get selected, no matter whatever their knowledge or experience is. So there was lack of beginner friendly programs. There were a lot of bottlenecks. Also, I met one of the persons, very interesting ones, in India, because Google was offering $5,000 for as a stipend for the Summer of Code program, and that person only earned his income by making contribution on behalf of other people. So his only work was to work for 3 months, just get the stipend from these students and get them a certificate of being a contributor. So the system was really messy. People were just doing it for money or just getting fame. And I wanted to change that and make it, less monetary driven and more value driven. I feel that open source programs should be open and welcoming, and they shouldn't have any restriction such as based on knowledge, or they shouldn't compete to become part of this world. So we started this program for the community, by the community. So right now, from last 6 years, I have no role as a founding director in running the program at all. I'm very proud to say that. It is entirely run by community, 100%. Every year, new program managers select other people. They select the other team members, and that's how we run the program. What we did different, beginner friendly, of course, but we shortlist all the legit applications. We have no prerequisites. So if you don't know open source at all, you can still apply. You can still become part of the program, and you can still contribute. We are not just looking for well-established open source organizations who have well-established projects, but we give you a chance. So if you have a project in mind that you want to start as an open source project, you just need to set up your GitHub repository, create some issues, and you are good to go. You can even participate as an admin, you can participate as a mentor, you can pitch your project, and you can even become a participant. There is no money involved, but we add some value, like we fund people's travel scholarship to different conferences. We give them job fair opportunities. We give them LinkedIn recommendation. Our students are now studying masters in computer science in Ivy League universities. Yeah, all of this we created with just one program. So this is how we create the further value. We give them swags, we give them vouchers, and we provide them with recommendation. Many of them work with the foundation after that, and we give them internships, and they volunteer with us as well. So it wasn't a smooth ride at all. As I said, I got trolled on the internet. We had remote communication because this is 100% remote program. We had a lot of inconsistency, like some people participated, but then some lacked motivation. Budget was also a constraint. So over the time, like we decided to how to reduce the cost of this project. So we worked a lot on that. But stories like these kept us going. So this is Janvi. She was a program manager, so she was not even a participant, but she learned sort of management skills and managing open source projects by being a program manager. And now she studied her master's at Cornell. I wrote her recommendation myself for the college, and she now works at consulting and worked earlier with Washington Post. So yeah, we have Soumya. You might know her. She is really popular on Twitter, have 160K plus followers. She's LinkedIn top voices and also works at Red Hat. So she was also a mentor and a program manager for the program. We also had some mentors or participants who turned to be sponsors. So last year, one of our sponsors was Mentro, which is a mentorship application in India. And this person, Jaydeep, he was one of our mentors 3 years back. So then he started his own company and now became a sponsor for the program. So how to run a successful business or any startup or any program that you want to start from scratch, you have to be a really, really good observer. So I found out a program. I didn't copy paste any program that existed, but I found the gap that beginners need support. They don't have any hand holding, and they need to start somewhere. And once they start, they will automatically, have other people to help them. And that's what we do at GirlScript. We just give them first 0 to 1 starting. So I observe that, learn from others' mistakes, what they are making, and then I customized it according to what I wanted. So don't wait for perfection. If you want to start up, just start. Don't wait for it. So how to run a beginner-friendly program successfully, empathize, step into other shoes, understand like what they have problems with, take feedback, make others leaders. So as I mentioned, I have no role in the program, but you have to inculcate leadership in other people and make them do things for you. And you just need to sit back and relax. So yeah, focus on cost cutting, safety and security in community programs is really important, especially if you have so many women developers. And focus on education and creating values. So GirlScript, I'll just talk quickly. I don't have much time. So the foundation was established in 2017 by me. It was my college project under Mozilla Open Leaders program. My mentor was Kristi from London Turing Institute. We started this program. We have Web3 Conf India, Uplift, Let's Buy, Women in Tech hiring programs we did with Atlassian. We had around 38,000 women last year, only women developers participating. So we have a lot of programs like that. Our main focus is tech for India and for the world. So we want to teach 1.4 billion people. So I'll just end my talk by saying that famous quote from Linus Torvalds himself, that open source is like science and you can customize it according to how you want. And you shouldn't be afraid to create new programs and new ideas. We are coming back for the 7th year with our program. The website is gssoc.girlscript.tech. Take it down if you are interested, share with other beginners. I would love to see all of you participating in any way possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Tumar Chiang, who is the project technical lead at the Open Culture Foundation, whom is going to be talking about the state of open source communities in Taiwan. Welcome, Tumar.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Thank you everyone for joining because I think it's only 50. Oh my god. It's only 50. So in the following 5 minutes, I will talk with my note in case out of time. Okay. So I will show about the state of open source community in Taiwan and what we face right now and in the international Okay, so the first, just as I said, the session is only in 50 minutes, and I'm afraid that I could not complete the session. But don't worry about. There are a QR code on the slide up top, and you can take more information later or just right now. Okay. Okay. So first, quick introduction. What is the Open Culture Foundation? We are a NPO NGO foundation in Taiwan, and we dedicate to promote the open source, open data, and the open government. And we combine the three parts into one. We call the open take, and we also care about the internet freedom and the digital right. That's our core value in our foundation. Okay, and if you have any resource fund, just like donation, international engage, open source partner, localization program, and the resource thinking, you can just ask or find Open Culture Foundation, and we will mapping or to find the appropriate community for them. Also, that's what we do. Okay, and this page and the next page I will introduce about our foundation project. That's all of them. Just only more influence projects in our foundation. The first is civic sense. This project is care about our environment. Okay, so by the makers, this project will give you a box, Raspberry Pi or Arduino in the box, and you can use the box to monitor your environment. Yeah, so this project is more care about our environment. And the next is a board game we call the Open Starter Village. So we want to use the board game to reduce the gap between the different scale. People work together for the open source, because we know open source project is not only the coder, maybe some from the user or promoter. How to make them work together? So we want to we have the board game to for them to simulate this situation. So that if you are interested, you can find the board game. I think I think it's all open source, so you can focus the board game or maybe just translate your language in your country. Okay, and then the second is international conference participant program. This part I will give you more introduction later, because this is the more important part. I will talk about the OECD Pass. OECD Pass is for the open source contributor to apply. We want to encourage them to do more about open source contribute. And what we reward for them is maybe we can give the free or discounted tickets of the conference in Taiwan. And we also want to attract more non-coder contributor to apply this program. So this is what we do, and right now, the more project. Okay, and OCF also hosts a small conference for our community. We call the ConCon. The ConCon is a conference for the open community. And what is that? We will set up some topic. That's the problem which are not only on one community will face, and we could find a solution and a suggestion through the make them brainstorming or the discussion to find the solution to solve them. Okay, that is a ConCon, and what we talked about before is the international conference program. This program, we invite the open source members come with us to the conference. Just like this year, we go to the FOSS, and we also request that the community give some flyer with us. The flyer maybe in the flyer maybe about their community project record or call for paper information. And on the first turn, well, our staff or volunteers will promote them about the community information to the attendee. And after after FOSS, we have released a report about our point of view in attending FOSS. And we want to share the report for the community to inspire them more ideas in Taiwan, because we think that we cannot to bring more people to the FOSS, because from Taiwan to the Europe is very long-term flight. So we try to make an easy way to bring our information idea to the Europe and bring back the more what we see to the Taiwan. Okay. Okay. This page is more huge information. I think we can go through this. This is more about community in Taiwan. We can quick calculate about in this part. The first is conference. We in Taiwan we have a lot of conference, just like a Coast Cup and the MarCon, PyCon, and CCon. Coast Cup, I think we can say is the largest conference in Taiwan and relate about the open source. Every year we have more than 2,000 people in the conference. We will say we just like FOSS in Asia. Maybe we can just say, but we want to try. FOSS is our model, Coast Cup model. So want to be the FOSS, yeah, the huge and the more variety conference and topics in Taiwan. Okay, and the security we will talk about the HeatCon. HeatCon is I think it's a more international and talk about the security in Taiwan. And I think it's also 1,000 people attending a conference. And the CSS is a community. The community also is our OCF partner, because OCF will support the civil society organization in IT and the security problem. We will ask CSS for the consult, and sometimes we will request them for help. So if you want to know how the CSS work, you can search the css.asia, and they have a lot of information in security and how to help the civil society in Taiwan. Okay, and then the rest of the community will go quickly, just like Ubuntu, Debian Taiwan, and the OpenStreetMap, Wikipedia in Taiwan, and we have a community about the ROIs, V Taiwan, and the network TWNOC. TWNOC is I think the next month they have a conference in Taiwan, and about the license, CC Taiwan is still work, and about the art and the I and the DA in Taiwan, and the open source community like Hacking Thursday, KSDG, Kaohsiung Software and Developer Group, and PostgreSQL and Mozilla Taiwan. Mozilla Taiwan, I will talk about them because they are the largest and the longest community in Taiwan. They are run. I think they are run almost 20 years in Taiwan, and the community have their style and smoothly run the long way and did not disappear. Mozilla Taiwan is a very cool community. I think that if you maybe in the August you want to attending Coast Cup and fly to the Taiwan, you can I think that you can more into I will introduce some key men about the Mozilla Taiwan if you go to. Okay, so 5 minutes. Okay. And the rest about the scientists side work and call for society is GZOV. GZOV, I think is the zero is from the they want to make our governments more performance. Just like the zero is about the idea is found the security in 0 day. Just they want to in this concept for our government. Okay. And this is the will host in Taiwan international conference. So if you have any chance to join us, because we have a lot of international conference this year. Okay, so we quickly we want call for something for everyone join us our open source community at the conference, meetup, online event, and more. And call for open source project for rising contributor and promote open source project, and call for participate. I think the participate resource for provide resource to community to help them to level and enhance further. Okay, the next is more about me. I'm right now in the OCF almost 1 year, less a year ago, joined to the OCF. And the OCF, if you want one word to recap, is from our community for the community. And our mission is to make the open source community and the civil society organization work together, because we find there are different groups and in Taiwan right now. Okay, and I also a volunteer at the course cover since 2008. So if before I joined OCF, I'm a big engineer still in Python. So if you are more interested about course cover or Open Culture Foundation, we have the booth at the second floor. So that's all. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, my name is Nadia, representing both my company, Sigma Fault, and Kai Yuanshe, the China leading open source alliance. And as you can see on the agenda, we have 15 minutes lined up for you, packed with a series lightning talks from China's top projects and companies. We brought together 3 awesome speakers to give us their takes from different angles, community, business, and projects, and to showcase the growth and development of open source in China. Is Ted Liu. He's one of the big names behind Kai Yuanshe. He's a co-founder and a director of the board. And Ted's going to, And Ted's going to give us a lowdown on what's happening with open source in China based on the core content of the China open source report. And following Ted, we are honored to have Richard Sikambian from Ant Group. They are the company behind Alipay. So if you have used Alipay before, you might know who they are. And over the past 10 years, Ant Group has been actively open sourcing their key technologies and pushing the envelope of innovation. Richard's going to talk about how they are leading the way in open source. And last but not least, we'll hear from my colleague Anne, who serves as the community manager and PPMC member of Apache Answer, a fully community-driven open source project aimed at helping more people and organizations build their own online communities. And will introduce us to this exciting project and share the story behind the growth and the success. We hope you find these sessions informative and inspiring. And for now, let's welcome our first speaker, Tai Liu from Kai Yuanshe.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me from back? Can you hear me? Okay. I just want to make sure that. Okay. As Nadia just introduced, I'm Ted, just call me Ted, from China. I'll briefly introduce myself. And I lived in Beijing, China for 22 years, but I'm originally from Taiwan. So I stay in Taiwan now. So 2 more is a good friend of mine. I studied in the US and worked in the US for a while. So that's my 3-body experiences, right? So how do I move? Okay. That's about me. I'm the co-founder and the director of the board in this year. I hate this. Do you have a controller that can move that? No? Yeah. Does it work? Oh, no connection. Okay. Oh, it looks okay. Fine. Now I used my finger, magic finger. So I'm also a member of the Apache Software Foundation. I'm the three committee member, the incubator. I'm also the mentor of several projects from Apache Software Foundation. And those three projects are mainly from China. And I worked in several multinational company and two failure startup company. So one for an international company called Linux. And many people may have known that's one of the earliest Linux distribution in the world back in 1999, before the dot-com bubble burst, right? And another Greater China startup company. So yeah, you can see that the three body, then the big red dot is China, right? So I stayed there for most of my life. I worked there. And the green one is Taiwan, small planet there in Taiwan. And the smallest, outside the circle is US. Okay. So you can contact me anytime through my email or LinkedIn. Okay. Today we can talk about the open source report in China for 2023. We had done this for 6 consecutive years. The first one's been 2016. We did a open source questionnaire and analysis. But after that, in 2018, we decided to do that in more thorough way to understand the market and the ecosystem and the landscape. We did 6 consecutive years. The main contributor to this report is called XLab. It's a university, East China Normal University. They have a XLab, and later they found a open source community called OpenDigger. That's do data analysis, data analytics for the open source ecosystem in China, and also the global ecosystem. So, where's the tab? Okay. So you can take photo, because this photo just like grow like naturally. It was like 10 pages. Now in 2023, it's 269 pages in Chinese. But when you translate it into English, it's probably more than 300 pages, right? So I would strongly encourage you to take a good look at that. Take a good look at it, right? The table of content today, I'm going to cover 2 parts, but there are one more thing that you need to know about the report. That the best part actually is the third part and the fourth part, the OSS commercialization and the OSS Chronicle. But because I have 60 pages for today's presentation, it can only cover 2 parts. The first 2 parts, I apologize for that. So the OSS questionnaire, we sent the questionnaire to almost 900 people across China. They are developers, enterprise executives, and also students. So that there's several parts of it, majorly demographics, role and distribution, why they choose and how do they contribute to the open source, and their motivation, how do they contribute, the community management. So the first one is the demographics. They can see that almost 90% of them are 35 and under. Do you know why? Who has heard of a 996 syndrome in China? 996. Okay, many people. All right, let me explain this. It's at 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock in the evening, 6 days a week. Now that's not workaholic. You don't have to be a workaholic, but you need to earn your paycheck by doing this. So the saying is that the surveys, perfectly shows that if you're under 60, 35 and under, then you're we call 996 involution. Involution is not AI terminology. It's something we have to compete with yourself and everybody in the world, right? So the involution. And 35 above, and you involuntarily worthless because you're gonna be out of your career because you cannot work that hard. That's a it's not a joke. It's a black joke. I would say that. So we have the gender distribution. You can see that almost 25% plus as a huge important workforce in the open source horizon in China. Okay. So the industry-wise, you can see that the biggest part is the internet, ICT, internet communication and technology sector, and followed by other sectors. And the education, you can see that almost 96% college or university above. So the China population is really, really well educated, so like what we have seen in Vietnam. Geographic distribution is that you can see Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and also Chengdu. Chengdu probably the closest to Vietnam, right, to Hanoi. So the occupation-wise, that you can see that student research staff, they love to answer questionnaire, so they are most responsive respondents in this survey. Okay, the role is that you can see that who is involved with open source most is user. So followed by participant, contributors, maintainer. Then I'll explain that later. The role definition. You can see that how do they participate by like attending conferences or contribute to the code or documentation. She's evenly distributed. Okay, the duration of I see that still a lot of people, like 25%, 1/4 of that, the respondents, they do exposure to the open source. Okay, we asked what's the reason you choose a project? And someone said, I don't care, I don't use open source, but majority of them use the one biggest, the most important reason is it's free of charge, right? And then the second highest reason is that they can do another customization for the open source code and project. The reason for staying with a project, I think the most important thing is the coding standard, right? In the community is very active. And technology interested for this year, last year actually is artificial intelligence, followed by developer tools. The reason for contributing to open source software, the most important reason is that you're interested in technology. Sorry. Up. Sorry. Oh, okay. The reason for contributing to, the highest, the most important reason is interest in technology area, and the second highest is the open and inclusive atmosphere for that community. Right. And motivation and contribution type, code contribution will be the highest one. Then help documentation, among other things. So you can see the behaviors and what they have they contribute to. The type of project, then the various reasons, and you can see it by yourself. The main motivation for that, why do they get involved or contribute to the open source project is like, pretty much similar. Career opportunity, recognition, honor, right, among other things. The key question they asked, did you get any monetary or financial return from the participating or contributing to open source? And most of them, more than half, they do it with love, right? With no monetary return. But the other half, some has other source of income through open source. Okay. Community management, I'll probably go through it quickly. There's the first one said how many enterprise use its open source software. I see that in China, that more than 75%, more than 80% are using open source software. And there's in China that we call it open source program management office. Then many enterprises, they focused on grow their communities, and among other communities, that the community health metrics is now become quite important. Everybody use that some sort of metrics to measure the health of their community. Okay, the impact of open source in the AI area, the people that the AI, I would not say it's fever, right? Why people think that AI can help? That's a reason for that. Increase efficiency and automation. The challenge of using that's a big topic that across the international communities, that we see the open source community is quite weak in the open source regulation and compliance issue there. But everybody concerned about how AI will impact that technology, our life, and also including the open source community. The politicians, they are so afraid of what AI would bring to them, and including open source. Open source is suffer from that, people's ignorance about the technology and open source. All right, and that's how AI can help. I'll skip that. All right, the second part is that the first part is in-person, one-to-many analysis using questionnaire and survey, right? And the second part is we use data analytics platform. Using we don't do in-person interaction. We use GitHub and Gitee, the largest open source hosting platform in China. We do that without using data to do analysis. All right. If you read the report, there's a very important concept called open rank. You need to understand this. Previously, we used like how many stars we get, how many fork, how many download we have to measure the importance of a open source project, right? But we use another, in this report, use another method called open rank, right? And the concept is the greater power you have, the more responsibility that you have, right? That's a super Spider-Man. But in the open source community, it's the same. If you can influence more people, then you get more attention and get more influence power by yourself. It's like Spider-Man. You have more people, then you get more good response, and people respect you and follow you, right? So that's open rank. So putting one simple word, the open rank is measure of influence. How you influence others or how others influence you. It's a matrix, interactive matrix. It's not an index of activity. All right. The current matrix for the open source health measurement is based on activity. How many stars and how many pull requests commit. But Open Rank is a measure of how people interact. It's a social network. So I put a spider web there. So it's measured by, you need to work with top notch, work with guru, right? And secondly, you need to get the top notch, the influencer to validate your contribution. That's the second part. You get to know them, but you need to do something really concrete and solid to get their recognition. And third part is that you need to do it consistently. You cannot do that just a hobby, right? Once a month or once a year. They're not going to work. That's how that Spider-Man does, right? So there's a chapter of that that's quite intensive. So we can see that there's a lot of analysis. We call it global analysis. We do like hundreds and hundreds of millions of data from GitHub, and also the second largest hosting platform in the world is Giti. That's an open source project hosting platform in China. So you do analysis on both platforms. So I won't go through the detail of that, but just wanted you see the last slides here. The active repository activity that you can see that GT, the blue one, grow quite quickly. It's not a number; it's that the the activitiness, right? Right, the observation, just share with the observation. Global open source fever continues to increase, but it grows at a slower pace. In terms of activeness, the domestic leading project outperformed global ones, yet the overall open rank, the influence is not trending upwards. So that means China domestic projects still gain good influence, but at a reasonable pace. All right, the training GitHub active users. So you see that the second part is China has become, actually, it shows that behind in India is in terms of number of developers, but China actually is the second largest country just after United States in terms of number of developers and number of contributors, all right? So, but India is catching up quickly. So observation is our global active developers continues grow, but at a slower pace. I don't know, maybe it's because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And China ranks third in the world to total number of active developers. But the total number of developers, China is still number 2. But the active developer-wise, India, China is ranked number 2, right? All right, so you see the observation that you can see the top 5 languages. The JavaScript has been the first one. The Python and TypeScript grow quite quickly. TypeScript is growing so fast. It's maybe become number 3 this year, right? So we have done that open rank lists by influence. The influence rank lists. So we have quite a lot of them. You can see that there's a Nix OS that's very active and very influential. and I'll prove that. And also Microsoft VS Code, among other things, other projects rank on the open rank and the activity lists. So there's 8 different categories that I'll introduce now. The second one, Chinese project, the open rank. These are all Chinese projects. The project originated from China, right? You can see the Open Harmony, Open Euler, then everybody hears about the Open Euler in this conference, right? So these are the popularity and their influence of these Chinese projects. Then we see the global enterprise, their influence. And you can see the Microsoft, Google, you can see the number 4 is Huawei, right? And the number 6 is Alibaba. So, okay. So as you see, the Chinese enterprise is catching up quickly. That's Chinese enterprise is open rank. The next one is Global Foundation's open rank. I'm very proud of being a member of Apache Software Foundation. It has been on the top for quite some years already. The region rank, the United States, Germany, and China has been a top 3 for in terms of country and region open rank. There's a list. We survey few millions of developers, and we have a individual open rank list here. Okay, developers open rank. This is from China, also individual rank list. Okay, the enterprise. Yeah, I can skip this. This is too much here. Okay, you see the observation. The past 10 years, Chinese companies have contributed to more than 20% of global open source ecosystem. That open source influence US and Chinese companies getting closer each year. But the gap is still significant. There's a lot of room to catch up. The foundation, as I said, Apache Software Foundation still been the leading software foundation. Then OpenAtom, the Chinese-based open source foundation, is catching up in terms of the open rank, their influence, right? You know, LF, AI and data grows fast. Then in terms of technology, the cloud native is catching up quickly. I skip that. Okay, technology side, we see that 6 technology area, the cloud native, database, operating system, the 3 major areas that worth watching. So we see that database, then from the left side is the activity perspective. The right side is the open rank perspective. You can see the database. The database front end, operating system, cloud native, artificial intelligence, big data. All right. Then project wise, that we can see the OSS projects influence power. The libraries, frameworks still be the most important one. The application software are the leading 2, right? The database that we can see some relational key values is going the top 2. You can see the open rank and the activity. They're actually their trends are quite similar. Normally, if you have a better influence power, you gain more activity. Yeah, so it's complement each other, right? The generative AI, of course, is the apple of everybody's eyes, right? Okay, here's the AI project that gains traction and momentum now. Right, then see the developers, the distribution, and this one is quite interesting. That if you want to measure it, how global your project, then you can use that this analysis to distinguish whether your developers working across all time zone. So we do this analysis across all time zone. For example, Nick OS is a very global project. And the developers' role responsibility, we have 4 different roles: explorer, participant, contributors, okay, I'm done. Committers, these 4 roles. And we can see that how each project, these 4 roles, and we can see that how many contributor has become a committer. Okay. The last one, is not the least one, is robot event. It's getting more and more important in the open source communities and projects. Right. Right. I can skip this. So there's case studies, and in this conference, you can see open users. It's growing very fast. It's the 3rd most active and most influential project in the world, and also in China. And yeah, this is the open rank for Chinese developers. They love their presence in the global project. You can see they're so active in the global project. All right. So I'm going to skip through, as I said. So please scan this barcode and take a look at this report. That concludes my presentation today. And one more thing. Please come to China to join the China Open Source Conference. We have done this for 9 years. And this year it will be the 10th anniversary of Yoonsoo. We do this 20 China Open Source Conference. You just search CourseCount 24 and come to us. Come to Beijing to join the conference. Then we'll see you there. And thank you for your time. So I run over time badly. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ty. And next, let's welcome Richard Sikambian to give us a talk on open source from the community for the community.
All right, thank you, Nadia. So everyone, feel free to come to the front. This is not your university class. This is an open source presentation, so don't worry about it. All right, so who doesn't like cool stuff? So this is what we have for Ant group, and we actually, emojize everything. So this is like Rust, like Java, JavaScript, and I think this is like C++ and Go. You can see this from the name there, and I think this one is Python. It's taking off, but it doesn't know why it's taking off. All right, and this is myself. So I used to be working as a software engineer in the States for like 11 years. And I'm currently working at Ant Group, and I built my open source program office from the ground up like 3 years ago. Ant Group actually has been doing open source for quite some time, but people doesn't really know about it. But in fact, I mean, we've been there. So we built an open source program office, and we actually essentially believing open source is actually one of the things which add to our value proposition of what Ant Group believes in, of making small and beautiful changes to the world. And we'll talk about 3 things today. First thing first, we're going to be quickly introducing Ant Group and open source. And the second part is about the projects. And the last part about how we move forward. What are we going to do from now on? Yeah, so we begin with the overview. I actually forgot to ask. So how many of you have actually heard about Ant Group? Let's have a raise of hand. All right, so how many of you have heard about Alipay, the payment application? Okay, it makes things a little bit hard. So the shorter version of introduction for Ant Group and Alipay is we're handling payment frameworks and payment network on the planet. So it's one of the earliest, I would say, like digital payments, and it covers like almost like the entire population in China. And if you go to China, you use QR code pay, and Alipay is one of the most pronounced used payment network. And then we expand from payment network into to be business and then to the financial services. So if you're a software engineer or if you're working in the financial technology sector, pay attention, we have something you want. All right, so we're here for open source. Everyone, like open source is more like everyone has their own kind of ideology about it. So what do we believe in? And group's style of open source is pretty much twofold. So let's have a raise of hand. How many of you have read this book, like the Cathedral and Bazaar? All right, you have, congratulations, you have a nice book you're going to read. It's one of the most classic book in open source, and you have fun. The first time reading might be a little bit tough, but it's going to be interesting, once you really get the idea. So we believe in what the book believes in. It's like there are different ways to collaborate, and open source is one of the most effective way of doing so. And security is important, and security through open source is actually good because security by obfuscation is not security at all. And then the other thing is like, I'm not sure if many of you have heard about this place called like Galapagos Islands. This is actually where Darwin found the revolution theory. So in the Galapagos Islands in South America, they have like, creatures like this, which looks pretty strong, but they're not. Because they can only live in this area. Once they live here, boom, they're dead. They're dead. So what we call this is like, it's robust, but it's not anti-fragile. You have a very strong creature, but the creature is actually very fragile. And we believe open source is the way to solve the fragility problem of software. All right, this is a very important page, and I'm going to skip it because there are too many texts over there. But the important message here is like, Ant Group, who is doing financial services and we handle money movements, we care a lot about trust. So trust is important to us. And we believe that open source is a very important aspect of adding trust to our technology and then to our overall brand. So we do open source, like we do a lot of infra-related open source. And then we actually, believe that this is a way for people to trust using our technology because it's open source. So you'll always be able to use the last version of it. And last but not least, we're a commercial company. Commercial company need to make money. There's nothing wrong by saying that. And it feels like open source is actually a very nice way of, coherently working towards a particular goal. And this is an important page. So we've been doing open source for like 10 plus years, but people don't know about it and want to change it. In fact, I mean, like the reason why people don't know about it is because we are not very strong to business company. We don't do a lot of SaaS and we don't have like, cloud infra services. And we do a lot of B2B2C. I mean, our primary business is based on B2B2C. But things have changed a little bit because like moving forward, there are going to be a lot of more technology because of trust. We want people to use those technology. So we actually believe that open source is an infinite game. So how many of you have read this book? It's a book from one of the most, like one of the speakers I like the most. It's called Simon Sinek. You have another nice book to read. I will highly recommend it. And I will also highly suggest everyone to watch Simon Sinek's video on YouTube, who, he talks about leadership a lot. And it's one of the best leadership, speeches I've ever seen. We feel that open source is actually like a mainstream way of building software. And it's also consensus driven. So we build open source not because, like I want the software to build this way, is because people all agreed that it's better to build, software this way. Last but not least, we feel the power of open system. We believe that OSS is actually a very nice way of building the ecosystem, and it goes along really well with our commercial software. All right, so this is the second part. We're going to be sharing a little bit of our history, and the key message here is Ant Group has been doing open source for quite some time, and we are coming from the community. This is an important page, but it has too much information. We do have a booth upstairs at booth 39, so if you're interested in any of these softwares, feel free to come upstairs afterwards and talk to us. But what we're trying to show here is that we have 4 layers of technologies, and it happens that we have open source in every one of them. So starting from the very bottom, because security is important, so we have trust native security softwares, including but not limited to privacy preserving computations of Secretflow, Oculum, details. But I mean, like, feel free to take a picture or go to our booth. Distributed computing is one of the most important part for it because Alipay is used by like billions of users, and we're handling like hundreds of billion transactions per day. Yeah, I think that number is correct. So you need to have a very proper distributed system in order to handle that in a very nice and coherent manner. So we have everything from a microservice architecture of OpenStack to the database of OceanBase, and we have a toolgraph to handle all the risk-related scenarios. And on the artificial intelligence side, we have a series of, I think we're going to have more actions this year, so stay tuned. On the human computer interaction side, that's actually one of the areas which we're most matured for, and I'm going to share your story of one of our most popular projects. It's called Undesign. So how many of you who are software developers here? Can I have a raise of hand? Like, so who does software development? So have you heard about Undesign? Come on. I'm pretty sure that many of you use this because I was at the booth yesterday. So Undesign is, in short, is a UI component library, which you can actually use to build your, software from ground up, and it saves your time. Yeah, that's one liner. But what's interesting for Undesign is like how it's really popular now, right? It's like one of the most used React-related, open source software on GitHub. It has like 5 major releases, and last time I checked about the numbers, there are actually like 1,000 stars and 38 issues and 11 PRs from Vietnam. So it's not a lot, but I hope after today we'll see more of it. So Undesign actually built with a philosophy or a principle in mind. It has nothing to do with UI, but it's how you should be building your software. So if we look at the thing on the left, it's like, how do you design a chair? What's interesting is like, it might not be the right question to ask. The right question to ask is like, how do you design something you can sit on and you can lay back and relax and it's not falling apart? So this is what design is all about. A design is not about the stuff. The design is about the principle and the problem you want to solve behind it. So Undesign not only is trying to answer that question, but introduces this paradigm of, like we do this UI from deduction to induction, and we're building this behavioral pattern that people can rely upon to use our products for. So it has been pretty successful software. The interesting part for that is the software now is actually used by like, millions of users, was built by a junior engineer back in 2015. And that junior engineer is a director now. So it just shows the power of open source and what that brings you to grow as a software developer. And then the project is actually pretty popular. And actually at one point, because of the clustering effect, Ant Group was one of the most famous company that all the front-end developers want to work in China for. And that's the beauty of open source. And here's another thing. So this is another project in which we recently built called DBGPT. So how many of you work on databases? Oh, come on. If you're working on software, you must be working on databases. So the story of DBGPT, as the name suggests, it has something to do with GPT. And it was a project we started last year in March. And when we're actually working on this, the project team has an idea. It's really about, okay, so we just feel like there need to be an agent framework for data. Of course, we all need agent frameworks, right? And then we actually want to do this from like, open source from day one, because that's when the Gen AI thing becomes really popular. We kind of feel that open source is the right way to go. Yeah, and then we want to build along with the community. So what happens is like, we actually build this project, like literally open source from day one. And we didn't reveal that it's Ant Group's project. And it's basically like, we want people to adopt and use it and, like really feels good about it. The vision is pretty simple. It's like, everyone is working on databases and writing SQLs can be hard. So let's begin with it. And then the next question is really about, hey, do you really need to write SQLs at all? So the overall design is more like, hey, we want this to be something that all the database developers from DBA to the developers can rely upon. And it's going to be, like coherently standardized to work with all the databases. And this is a page of technical aspect. We probably don't have enough time for this, but the TLDR for this is like, it actually pretty much focuses on the important aspect if you're working on the data layer to use LLM to help you have a better experience all the way from development to like operations to like all the maintenances and all the DBA operations that you need to do. Yeah, and it's cool. We really hope that you spend some time checking it out. So it has information of the of the project, and this is pretty much like shows how we begins everything with, and you can actually do things in a more interesting way now. Not only that you can work with this on databases, but you can also work with Excel, all your knowledge frameworks, and you can also build dashboard. Who doesn't like dashboard, right? It kind of helps you to see the data in a very nice way. Yeah, so this is one of our projects, and yeah, I would say that those two projects are actually a very good demo of what we believe in. We believe in that we're coming from the community, and we want to work with community, and we want our projects to work with community. And the next part is about for the community. So when we say we're doing things for someone, it has like a little bit different notion from like working with someone. It's because like we have been working on the tag and the payment tag for quite some time. And we have our own kind of taste. And sometimes it feels like, the taste can be beneficial if you're going to be sharing some of the practices, and by open sourcing our own software, can actually help everyone with. So the important part is, why do you believe in us, right? So it has something to do with what kind of person and what kind of personas we want to build. So this is kind of like open sourcers I want to actually become, by working with the community. First thing first, we'll continue open sourcing more core infra technologies, and that's critically important because it feels like building, providing more options. So for instance, I mean, like if you have one more database in the ecosystem, which already has like, I would say 100+ databases, it's probably a good idea, right? It's because we saw something different. And then the second part is like, we actually believe in our, we can actually make innovations through OSS projects. The story of N-Design and the story of DBGPT is a good example for that. Is that if you're working with the community from day one, you will have something which is robust and anti-fragile and people love. So that really helps, and we believe in that, we'll keep doing that. And last but not least, we're going to be sharing our methodologies and tools. So for instance, we have a report, like IEEE article is like lessons learned from Ant Group OSPO. Feel free to, so there's a URL for that report. It has a lot of information about, what we did for, building OSPO and building these open source practices and help the community. Yeah, and the best place to keep to get our updates is through Twitter, and the Twitter link is here. And I'm going to share two projects in which, which we believe that it can be really useful for the community. Yeah, so we see like MySQL is one of our sponsors here. So we have like OceanBase is basically what we use in production to really facilitate all the payments of Alipay. As you mentioned, it's like hundreds of billions of transactions per day. And OceanBase is basically a transaction analytical database which supports both transaction and analytical workload, and it's fully MySQL compatible. So if you're working on MySQL, you can work on OceanBase. And OceanBase is actually fully open sourced with like 4 million lines of code, all used in production. So if you go to the website and you will see like the code is fully open source on GitHub. Yeah, and then like, if you're interested in database, play with it. It represents a very interesting paradigm that people love. Another case study which I would like to share here is about like a project called Secretflow. I think yesterday we were kind of talking to some of the students here, like people are interested in, hey, we're interested in AI technology and, analytical technologies. But, like recently we've been seeing a shift from, the traditional way, you can use data however you want to like, hey, I think I want my data to be handled in a very private and I would say proper way. And secret flow is actually one of our projects which does exactly that. So you're students, I think most of us are students in this room, right? So you want to work on some, cool and interesting technology moving forward. And this will be one of the interesting areas you probably want to look into. It's a joint area between security and artificial intelligence. So what it does is like actually allows you to actually build your analytical workload. You can write SQL against secret flow, and you can also do like the traditional ML workload against it. But underneath it, you can have data from multiple parties. Like, I have my data and Ted has his data. He doesn't want to give his data to me, and I don't want to give my data to him. And you can use this framework to actually run that workload by taking his data, my data, and run a joint model on that and have the benefits of, the both sides. But, like I don't really see his data and he doesn't see mine from mathematical, like theoretical level that we prevent that. Yeah, so I mean, like if you're a student and you feel like you want to work on some interesting areas, we have like technology like this that you can actually focus on. And all of these technologies is like something we use in production. All right, so this is the last page. So the last page, which I really want to end the message with, I can talk about open source all day long, and feel free to find us in the booth. But the important message is really about, why Ant Group is doing this. Like traditionally, we're not really doing open source, but why are we doing open source now? It's this is actually one of our slogans, right? So we want to bring small and beautiful changes to the world. It feels like open source is actually one of those things which really brings like the small and beautiful changes to the community. And like if we open source our projects and if we work with the community, and if everyone works in Ant Group, actually working on open source community, and if everyone who is actually not working in Ant Group feels like we are generating value for the community, that's the most important part for us. Yeah, so let's keep connected on Twitter, and we also have our open source websites. The English version was just uploaded 2 days ago, so if you see some bug, bear with it. But we're being very serious about this event. So that's why we're doing that. And yeah, so this is my personal LinkedIn. So if you're actually using LinkedIn and if you have questions about how you want to grow your career as a software engineer, I think we can help. All right, that's all from us. Thank you so much. I'm handling the mic to Nadia. Yeah.
And next, let's welcome Anne to give us a talk on your next online Q&A community, Apache Answer, and to unlock the collective power of knowledge sharing with Apache Answer.
Xin chào, tôi là Anne. This is Anne, and I come from the Apache Answer. So before that, Ted and Richard has given you like big picture of different OSS. But today I want to show you a little bit closer for our project, and everybody, I promise you guys can all get involved. So let's get started. So I believe most of us have been through this, like you get lost in scattered information, and then you always end up with outdated documentation after rounds of searches, and then you are always answering the same question over and over again. It's very frustrating. And you definitely need a place where it collects reliable information. It is always updated and organized. And the best part is everyone is a part of it. And it's always safe, and you always have the access of the control. And the place is called Apache Answer, and I'll tell you why. So everything starts with a question in Apache Answer because we're a Q&A platform. So every time you put in a question, then we will give you a real-time suggestions based on the keywords you type in. So there's no need for you to like go with same repeated question over and over again. All you have to do is click and you're straight up to the question you need. And then we always make sure that your question is exactly the same while you are editing that. We have the real-time preview, so there's no worry about the crazy format things. And then before posting it, we will ask you to add a tag because this is very helpful for organizing the content more efficiently in the community. And this really makes a big relief for the admin and moderator. But it's fine if you're losing it. I'm not pretty sure which tag I'm going to add. No worries. Like the admins and moderator will help you on this. And then the next thing is you just go post it and voila. So here comes your question. The title and the description of it and the tags. And this part, I will talk about it later. And the best part in Apache Answer is that we provide ways to connect you with the right answer. So farewell to the repetition searches and overwhelming outdated information. Every time you post a question, you can always pin an expert. But that means you can select or invite people that you think he or she might have the correct answer you need for a more proactive response. So now it comes to the question. So I don't know which one is the expert, but no worries. We have a user page where you can see, this is one of our most active developers in the community. You can see he has more than 1,000 reputation scores and 94 answers and 2 questions. But I believe the data has been updated these 2 days. And you can find that his expertise in which area by his answers and those questions he has been raised. And then you can always find best answer related to a question. Like you receive 2 versions of answers, and after testing that, you find, oh, this one is good, so I accept it. So next time when a person who has the same question as you do, you just go and click and see, oh, this is the question I need. And that's it. It's kind of like helping to each other. And the next thing that you can also follow a tag so that you'll never miss the content that you are interested. For example, this is our community. I've been following the feature request, discussion, and how-to guide. So every time there's new content comes in, I'll receive the notification. It's kind of like following someone on Twitter. And last but not least, we also have the advanced search. I've made this cheat sheet for me, so you can find the correct content you need by tags, the scores, a username, which is kind of like the expert thing, and the question or answer, and maybe the keyword in the answer is also available in the searching. In our community, everyone matters because we have an open editing and collaboration culture in it. Everyone is open to edit the answers or the questions. If you find something is outdated, you're more than welcome to edit it. Like we don't have like only admins can access to it. But after each and every edit, maybe the moderator or admin will go and give it a check. And you are always welcome to leave a comment because sometimes answering a question is it's like too much, it's overwhelming, but you are always welcome to have discussion with the person who comes with an answer in the comment. And the third part is you are always welcome to upvote a question or answer to show that, oh, you are kind of like in the same place with the person who is seeking the solution. Or, oh, this answer is great. It's totally at the tip of my tongue and someone just posted. That's awesome. And last but not least, you can always accept an answer to guide other people who have the same question as you do. And then in our community, we always reward the good deeds for the people. For example, you can see the reputation score we just mentioned. It is I think it is a symbol of a recognition for a person who always follow the guidelines and willing to help or contribute to the community. These are the 3 ways, and there will be more to earn the reputation score. So first is receive a question or answer upvotes. That is, your question gets upvoted by other people, or your answer gets a thumbs up. And the next thing is someone accept your answer, which is like your answer is selected as the best answer to the question. And the third is if you had a new idea for your community and the community accept your proposal, you can always have the reputation score. So next question is, where do those reputation scores lead us to? It will grant you with more permissions. For example, you can invite someone like the ping expert thing. And you can also review the edits, create a new tag, or manage tags, and there's so much more. These permissions allows you to gradually govern it, become one of the editor or moderator in the community. So gradually, the community forms runs in a way of self-governance without much disturbance or guidelines from outside. And the more time you spend with the community, you will fall in love with Q&A, because every time you have a question, you just ask and search for an answer. And the more time you spend with the community, gradually you will just engage with the community. And you will find, surprisingly, that might just fall in love subtly, and you have no idea when you just start doing this. And privacy is always at the top priority for Apache Answer too. We grant that you have the login access control and content access control. We believe that it's your community, so it's your rules. So you can decide who can visit your online community and who can check your content or do an edits. Okay, so now let's have a quick recap of what's happening in the Apache Answer. It starts with a question, and you find an answer, and the question solved, and you do upvote, respond, or accept an answer. So it's kind of like magical thing that you have gradually become one of the most important loops in the community too. And that's not it. We also have features like dark mode, customization, plugins, adblock users, and responsive display, and there are more coming. So behind Apache Answer, we are the team called Segment Vote. It is the largest developer Q&A community in China, with years of experience in running and building community. And our goal and mission is to help more people to use our experience. Like, we put them all in the product called Apache Answer. We hope you can enjoy and use it, and also unleash the collective wisdom with more people. And we love open source. Since the very first day we got on GitHub, we just open source, yeah. The most amazing things that you saw, that those features are requested from the community and built by the community. If you went to our GitHub, which there'll be a QR code later, you will find that we have discussion with the users in the community. And then someone just pops up and build it from the ground, and everything is all for the good for the community. And we love to say that the contributor rocks. So I would love to see you guys soon become one of our contributors. And there are more ways, more than coding, things like that, because our very first language version is Vietnamese. So we will keep updating, so there will be more translation needed. Of course, you're also welcome to share on social media or give us a translation or submit a blog. And today there are so many teams and individuals are using answers now. I believe each and every answer are so different. That's why I just made it colorful. And I'm looking forward to see your version too in the school, or maybe you're with your friends. So why not just give it a go? And let's work things out together. So this is our GitHub repository. Feel free to scan or take a picture. Yeah, I know I'm rushing it. And this is our official website where we've already prepared you the must-have documentations and things you need. And also, let's connect. So this is our social media on Twitter. You can just do a photo and then we can connect. And then we also have the Meta Answer. This is our official platform. And this is definitely a good place for you to play with the features, because we just built it by ourselves with the tools we built. Yeah, kind of like a tongue twister thing. And last but not least, we also have Discord, so feel free to scan and join the club. And I really want to say a big thank you to everyone here, because you have so many options out there, but you choose to spend your time with us. So come on, thank you so much. And if you want to talk more, we have a booth up there, second floor, number 39, where you can meet us all there. So I guess that's on my part. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I always try to fit too much stuff into the 20-minute block that FOSSASIA gives me, so we're going to rush. Know that the slides are available on the talk description on the website, and I will be upstairs available at the booth, the Elmo Linux booth, all today and all tomorrow. So you can find me there if you have questions. We'll start with this, the very basic. Nobody's here to hear my story, I don't think, so I'm not going to tell it. Know that I've been around in tech and open source for a while. know that I am kind of a dork, and that's pretty much all you need to know. If you have questions, you can find me after, or you can find me upstairs. You can send me an email. You can find me on the socials. I'm around. It's fine. With the short block that we've got, I don't have time to convince you of all of the things for my thesis of this talk, so I'm going to start with some assumptions. First one, ooh, that was amazing. Did you guys see that? I mean, I promised to run through it, didn't I? First one, marketing is necessary. If you are here, I'm going to assume that you already are understanding that there is a time and a place for open source to do some kind of marketing effort. Number two, your project is useful. I'm going to assume that if it was useful for you, it's probably useful for other people, and it's worth talking about with the other people in the public. Make sure that if you are doing something that has already been done, that you're doing it for more than a reason that is just, I want to write, I wanted to learn how to code in whatever language better, or I wanted to do this. When you start publicizing, there has to be a reason for it to exist. So keep that in mind. I'm also assuming that you're here because for you, the word marketing is uncomfortable or weird or makes you feel like it's not going to be as much fun. Know that marketing often has this negative association because the majority of marketing is actually advertising, and we all feel very icky about advertising. Advertising intentionally tries to trick you or persuade you into doing something that you don't necessarily want to do, or buying something or being something that you don't have to be. That's not what we're here for. We're not doing any of that. Number four, you have already chosen open source. This is not a conversation about whether you're going to be closed source or open source. I'm assuming you've already chosen open source. And if you have any doubts about why that is, then we can talk about it later. Number five, you are already ready to accept feedback. If you're going to be sharing a project in the public, you have to know that that will invite opinions and ideas and suggestions and criticism and hate and love and all of the things that come with putting an idea in the public. If you are not ready to accept feedback, then I strongly can recommend that you consider whether or not you actually want to do open source, because you're gonna have a bad time. It's not gonna be fun. There's other options that we can talk about. If you're in that boat, just come find me and we can talk about it. The other assumption is that this is an ideal scenario. In real life, most of the time, you don't get the time to plan this out and consider and decide what you're going to do before you get started. The outline that I provide it's not a judgment against anyone who hasn't done this. It's not a statement that anyone's doing anything wrong if they haven't done this. It is simply, we are in an ideal scenario. You have a project that you've started to write or have written that you want to start marketing, and there's nobody really there yet. So that's where you're at there. I also promised a pre-flight or pre-launch checklist for you to give. So here's that checklist real quick. Number one, define your goal. I am going to heavily lean on this. When you start doing marketing efforts, you need to define what your efforts are going to, what they're aiming toward. Are you trying to bring in contributors? Are you trying to bring in users? Are you trying to bring in people who will do code reviews? Are you trying to bring in something else entirely? If you've got a goal in mind, then that will drive all of the efforts and make everything a lot more focused for you as you get through it. Number two, I'm gun shy with this button now. Maybe we'll do that. There we go. Number two, put your code in the public. You would be surprised by how many people miss this part. Your code has to be in a place that is public and that people can easily submit feedback, pull requests, suggestions, ideas, anything like that. And if you are not ready for feedback and suggestions and ideas, and I refer you back to assumption number 5. It's not time for you yet. Number 3, get an OSI license. Pick one. The OSI is the open source initiative. They are the ones that steward the definition of open source. Pick a license from their website. There's another website that I list there called Choose a License. It helps you walk through all of them that are available, so you pick the one that's right for you. I do not recommend choosing anything that is not blessed by the OSI as an open source license. We can get into a debate about that, so I'll just leave that one there. And then when you're accepting feedback, when you're there, that means that people are going to come give it to you. If you do not define how you want that feedback to be given to you, then they will decide for you. You'll get emails, you'll get issues, you'll get tweets, you'll get whatever. Make sure that when you want that feedback to be delivered, it's given in a way that is both sustainable and something that you're going to be able to keep up with. So if you, for better or for worse, if you define, I want people to email me their suggestions, then as your project grows, your inbox will overflow. That's something to consider. So just define how you want it to be and put it in your project very clearly so that anybody that finds your project knows exactly how to give you feedback. And as part of number 4, you're going to want to define how and where people go, how you are going to disseminate information. So if you're posting a newsletter on GitHub, they know how to watch for that. If you are sending out a newsletter on email, they know how to watch for that. However, you're going to announce stuff, define that, and then define where people will gather to give you feedback. Like I said, if it's issues, that's fine. If it's a Mattermost chat, wherever you want to put people, make sure that that's defined, because if you don't, again, they will make it up. They will find a way to give you feedback. And so now we're getting to the meat of it, because we've got that little checklist. Essentially, what you're going to be doing next is building awareness, and that awareness almost always comes from talking about it. You are going to be sharing in general how your project solves the problem that you had, the thing that you encountered. This first step is my favorite, because if you have built a group of friends around you that are your champions, they're going to be interested in what you're doing, but it also feels a little bit awkward, right? Like, it's hard to tell people that you care about things that might not be relevant to them. But if it's relevant to them, they're going to be excited. Even if it's not relevant to them, they're going to be excited that you've done a thing. So start by telling the people that are closest to you. This one is kind of default for almost every type of marketing effort. You talk about it in the public space. These things tend to cause people hesitation because the immediate question is, what do I talk about? Here's the cool thing. You already got a goal that we defined in the pre-flight checklist. So the goal drives what you're going to be building. If you want contributors, then you talk about the things that are kind of broken, the things you think can be improved, the things you want to welcome contributions about. If you want code reviews, you talk about how the things that are coming in are not quite what you want, or something along that line. If you want, I gotta scroll through my notes. If you want users, you talk about the cool things that people are doing with your project, or the things that could be done with your projects, or the things that you want to be done with your project, things that you are setting up. Whatever you focus on, whatever goal you've defined, focus on that as you're building this content. And I include both vlog and blog because written and video content reaches different audiences. So even if you're duplicating the content, if you're talking about the same thing in both places, it will hit different people. What did I do there? Ah, there's a black screen button. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Podcasts have taken off, especially in the last 5 years, but certainly in the last 20 since they started. it is an important place to, again, get a different audience. And then it's more of a conversation instead of you just talking into the void, which is what happens with both vlogs and blogs. When you start reaching out to any podcasts that you are interested in sharing that you think is the right place to share, the thing I want you to keep in mind is reach out in a way that is appropriate for that audience. So you're going to approach, I'm gonna blank on all of them right now, but make sure you're listening to the podcasts that you think are interesting. Talk to the ones that you think are interesting first. If you're not listening to any podcasts, don't reach out yet. Start listening, pick ones that are interesting to you, and hear how the conversations go so you know how to frame what you're doing so that their audience will be interested. That's the best way to set yourself up for success there. And the thing that will influence whether or not you're successful when reaching out to podcasts is whether or not you are a fan. If you're a fan, that gets you a way to start the conversation. Like, I'm a longtime listener. I love this podcast because I like this meme that you guys have, or I like this joke that you always make, or I really liked this episode and it made me think your audience might also be interested in this cool thing I'm doing. Relevant places. Aha, this one gets me. So there is a fine line to walk between talking about the things that, or between sharing the thing that you have done in a place that is relevant and spamming. There is this newsletter. If you write stuff in Rust or if you do stuff in the Rust space, this newsletter accepts blog posts and videos and conferences and everything related to Rust in general. So if you are writing a project in Rust and you learned a cool thing as you were building it, write a blog post, make a video, submit it to this newsletter. You're going to find, I am certain, there are other places just like that for other languages or other groups, other anything. There are places that are relevant without causing that negative emotion, because none of us like to be spammed. None of us just want to see, hey, check out my cool project. It is a fine line, and you don't want your project associated with those negative emotions. So keep an eye out there. This work will take time and effort before you see results. There's always the chance that you're going to catch somebody's interest and you're going to rise to the top of all the noise because somebody big cares about it. Don't expect that to happen, and don't expect it to keep happening if it does happen. You have to keep this effort up, and that is the only way that you're going to continue to grow whatever it is that you're trying to grow. There are a couple other things that I want to make sure we think about when you're starting to grow your anything. Right now, marketing, it is very, very hot to use AI, both in content generation and in graphic design and that kind of stuff. You are going to set yourself up for, I swear it works half the time. You're going to set yourself up for an interesting discussion as you start to use AI. If you lean on it too much, you are going to end up, let's just put it this way. AI doesn't tell you what's true. It tells you what's likely. So if you are using it to write blog content, you're going to end up in a situation where you put something out that is wrong. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that it's fact-checked and it's correct. Always, always, always use it with caution. For example, if you're writing a blog post, use it to build an outline. Don't use it to write the entire blog post. It can be a tool without being a thing that causes you strife. To CLA or not CLA? CLA is a contributor license agreement. So you typically will see recommendations for how you deal with contributing code and how you make sure that you maintain ownership of it. You want to be very careful with this, especially because most of the time that I see it used by companies who have an open source product that they are selling, and they want to make sure that they maintain ownership of the code. So if you're going to use a CLA, be very, very clear about why you're using it. And I think we're going to make it in our 20-minute block. So we've flown through all of this. And like I said, the slides are available online. You can get them there. I have these 2 wrap-up slides to give you everything that you need. The value of your work and your project right here defines or is worth the extra effort at the beginning to make sure that you don't get overwhelmed halfway through. Use this ahead of time to set yourself up for success. When you get to this work, know that this kind of work will take, like I said, 6 to 12 months before you see consistent results of it. And it's going to be a forever thing, not just a today thing. Keep this work going and you will see adoption as long as all of the assumptions are true, right? There's a couple more pieces of advice that I can't help but give because of who I am and because of what I've seen in open source. If your project is open and good and gets feedback and gets users, you are going to end up in a situation where people will come with opinions and love and hate and suggestions and criticism and all of the things that make it wonderful and hard to work in open source. It is your job to meet those things with humility and grace, no matter the opinion and no matter how it's presented. You can say you're coming too aggressively and push and say we're not going to do that in this space, but make sure that you're not meeting them with aggression. It will improve your project overall. Have fun with it. If you're not having fun, it's time to step back. It's time to step away. If not every day will be amazing, but do not stick around past when it is consistently fun. If you don't hold yourself to that line, you're going to become a bad steward. Find a partner of some kind. That can be a mentor, that can be somebody else that's active in the same space that can give you ideas. Having a conversation with other people on a regular basis about your project will make it so much easier to brainstorm about content ideas, to come up with new features and new ideas about how to implement what you're doing. Just bounce it off somebody else. Find a partner that is willing to have that conversation with you on a regular basis. Take care of yourself. Open source can be very, very hard and grueling. It can also be super rewarding. Do not let this one go. Some of the best advice I've ever gotten that you probably won't be able to read. Whenever you feel like everyone hates you, sleep. Whenever you feel like you hate everyone else, eat. And whenever you feel like you hate yourself, take a shower. Always, always keep those in mind. Thank you, FOSSASIA, for having me. Thanks everybody for attending. I hope it was great.
Anyone have any questions?
When do I what? Oh, when you decide to start presenting at conferences. I didn't even get to that one, did I? So the goal with this presentation was very baseline, very like anybody can do it from anywhere. If you can start to get people to pay you to go to conferences, you have made it. Like that's amazing. If you're going to be spending your own money to do it, you have to make sure that you're not bankrupting yourself. Don't do that. But also, like, legitimately, if you've got a community that's that excited, you can get help. Find somebody that will help you and it'll happen.
Our next talk is titled GNOME Community and Ways to Engage by Kristi Progri, who is the program manager at the GNOME Foundation. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming in my presentation today. I know that there are so many other super cool presentations. Thank you so much for choosing this one. So today I will be talking about GNOME community, what we do, what are the ways that you can actually contribute, what are the ways that you can actually, engage with our community, and most importantly, how to be a part of it. I will just briefly talk a little bit about myself, my background, and what I do. So I'm the program manager at the GNOME Foundation. I'm also part of the Chaos DI audit team. I'm also one of the co-founders of the Open Source Diversity Initiative, and this is where is the part that I'm bringing all my knowledge and all my information to the DI sector into the Chaos community. I've been working at the FSFE and as a program manager, as an assistant program manager, and I've been part of the Mozilla community as well as a representative many years ago when I was in high school. So it has been a little bit like a long time. I'm a free software advocate and a contributor since 2012. And for those who don't know, I'm from Albania and from Tirana. I first started this journey on 2012 in a local hackerspace. It's called Open Labs Hackerspace. It's the place where all free and open source softwares are, let's say, helped out, to be built and to contribute. And we also promote all these communities. So going back to the actual topic for today, so this GNOME is a desktop environment. Basically, it's a non-profit foundation, and it has previously been divided into the foundation and the community. Basically, the foundation means all the staff, the board members, all the administrative workings, and the structure of it. And the community is basically all the people that bring the spirit, that are the contributors that make basically everything happen on the code level, on the marketing level, and all the other aspects that can make a community grow and be more successful. Our community has people from different backgrounds. We have software developers, artists, writers, translators. As I mentioned, we have people that do social media. We have people that also help us out to do the event organization. We have people that help us to do the fundraising part, which is so important because this is basically how everything is run. And the acronym for the GNOME is the GNU Network Object Model Environment. I'm briefly mentioning some few facts, especially for the beginners and especially for the newcomers, that is the first time that they hear about GNOME. We have the main conference. It's called GUADEC, and we have the GNOME Asia. GUADEC is a conference that has previously been organized only in Europe, but now we are moving all over the world. This year, for example, it will happen in Denver, in Colorado, and GNOME Asia is our event, but dedicated only in Asia. Last year, we had GNOME Asia in Nepal. We have been before in Indonesia. We have been in Malaysia. We've been in India. So we are trying to reach as many communities as possible all around the world. So if I have people here in the audience that would be willing to help out and to organize a GNOME Asia in Vietnam, we would be super thrilled and happy to come as a whole community and organize it here. And also the third conference that's let's say one of our most important events is Linux App Summit. It's a conference that we co-host with KDE. We've been managing and we've been organizing this conference for a couple of years now. I believe that it brings a lot of value in our community. It's a very important conference to share all the knowledge and to actually collaborate and contribute and work with each other to make the desktop environments better and to help improve that. And the last part is that outreach is actually a program that was invented and that was let's say first started as a GNOME project, then it got disconnected, and now it's a project on its own that you might all probably have heard about, and some of you might also have been a part of it, but I will explain a little bit more later. Yeah, so like just to give you some more information for GUADEC, GUADEC is actually the acronym of GNOME Users and Developers Everywhere Conference. We had Europe, but because we were moving, we had to remove the Europe out of the name. First edition was in early 2000s, and now we are switching to organizing it 1 year in Europe and 1 year outside of Europe. We super soon will open the call for locations for GUADEC. So we hope to go in places. So this is one of our like main focuses, to go in places that we have never been before. So we hope to go to a new country this time, to maybe start and create a new community from scratch. If you'd be interested to join our community, we have many areas that you can come and you can try to even get some experience, or even try to contribute with your knowledge, or also get to know new things. Translating, currently now that we're talking, we will need help, of course, for the Vietnamese language, to help us out, and to translate all our softwares. We'll need some help with the documentation. You know how important it is to actually leave some manual and some guidance on how the software works and how the whole work can be done. We also have the GNOME engagement team. It's actually a team within GNOME that it's not part of a technical area, let's say. It's the team that's only dedicated to conference organizing, to marketing. It's a team dedicated only to the non-technical areas, which are definitely so important. If we have designers in the room, we have a great design team that would be super happy to have everyone on board and to help you, walk through all our guidelines and maybe start to work on the GNOME design as well. And of course, it's the coding part. We have a super big team like GNOME Shell and other teams that work within GNOME to make our softwares like more reliable, more improved, and better with each release. So if you're interested in the coding part as well, you can also feel free to come and join us. If you'd like to join any of the teams, I have quickly added here the wiki pages for each of the projects. Another way that basically you can also try to join us, we have a matrix group, let's say, and you can find all the teams there. You can just try to contact each group directly, and they will be super happy to help, I believe. And these are basically the softwares and the tools that we use for each project. In the engagement team, one thing that I briefly mentioned before is also the fundraising. We are constantly looking for the companies and other foundations maybe that we can collaborate with each other, and we can help us raise the money, and we can also try to support them in our own ways. The main let's say tool that we use for all the information and everything is the GitLab. This is where you can find basically everything that has to do with our teams. We have different repos for each team. So if you're interested, you can just go into the gitlab.gnome.org, and this is where you can find the most important information. This is for the design team. This is for the coding. There is a website called welcome.gnome.org. This is inside this website, there is also a newcomer's guide. You can choose a project, you can build a project, you can solve a task. And on this website, you can also find many other clues, many other information on how you can get started and actually start to, to code in GNOME. And beside that, GNOME offers also some other opportunities. If you'd like to, work with our developers or with other team members, you can apply for the outreach internship. We usually have 2 spots every session. We are super active with the Google Summer of Code, where we have many students joining us and helping us out with our projects. And before, from time to time, we used to open some internships before, where students or other people can actually work with us for like 6 months or so, and they can, try to develop a project. I really believe that the onboarding should be a top-level priority for all the FOSS projects. So this is, I believe that having newcomers and having new people coming on board from time to time, it's the best way to actually maintain a project in the community. It's also so important to have new ideas, to have people coming from different backgrounds that can share the knowledge. So I believe that every organization or nonprofit that's in the FOSS area, having new people on board, it's definitely a priority. So onboarding, one of the most important parts, let's say, is that the onboarding will ensure that the project has enough contributors. So even if the contributors that used to be before, if life happens, they have to leave, we have new people that actually can take it away and can continue working on it. Reduce maintainer burnout. It's so important to not let just one person do all the work, but actually having some support. Improve diversity and inclusion as well. As I mentioned, it's important to have people from different backgrounds. Provide more opportunities for contributors. Create a pipeline for community members who are excited to contribute. And also it can help to create like a footpath for the other contributors that will come in the future. I will briefly focus also on the CHAOSS community, which we have collaborated recently a lot regarding the badging program and the matrix. So CHAOSS community is a Linux Foundation project on creating matrix models and software to better understand open source community health on a global scale. They have a super interesting program that's called badging program. So for example, FOSSASIA can be one of the conferences that they can apply for a badge, and in this way they can get a certain level of the diversity event badging. So it's a very good way to also improve the diversity within actually within the conference. So this was my presentation pretty much. I have shared here my email. So later, if you'd have any questions or if you'd like to join our community, please let me know. I'm not sure if we have much time left. If you have questions, yeah. If you have any questions, I'm. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, timekeeper. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So our next speaker is Greg Brown, who's a product manager marketing at Insta Cluster, now part of Spot by NetApp. And he has spent a few years working in film. So the wonderful thing about open source is the amount of innovation that we have from people from far-flung industries who you never thought was relevant, but have come and contributed some new perspectives to us. So today will be another one of those days where Greg is going to give a talk titled Pretend It's a Movie, How to Engage New Audiences in the Power of FOSS and Build Excitement for Your Own Open Source Projects. So let's get excited about Greg and give him a hand. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, hello, my name is Greg, and I can proudly say that of all the people here at FOSSASIA today, there is a strong possibility that I know the absolute least about open source technology. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a developer. Instead, I come from the world of film and marketing. But the funny thing about that, is that it actually gives me a distinct edge in helping people better explain whatever open source project it is that they're working on, and even excite others too. Here's why. Let's say you're hard at work developing your own open source project. Maybe you're contributing to an existing project with a cool new feature, or maybe you're starting completely from scratch and building something entirely from the ground up. You're finding great success in what you're creating, and you absolutely believe this open source project can change how the world uses data. You've encountered all these challenges and you've solved them, but now you're encountering an entirely new problem, a problem that I've seen the best and brightest engineers and developers struggle to solve. You're going to have to not only explain what your project is to people who don't have the slightest clue as to what you were talking about, but you're going to have to actually get them excited about it too. So they're going to be a really diverse group, you know? Think potential investors, sales and marketing people, wary businesses who really don't want to adapt your project, you know, your ideal users, random people, whomever. You know, that's a tough thing to do. Trust me, you know, I've seen the smartest and people struggle with that on a daily basis. So how do you explain and excite people who have no idea what it is that you're actually talking about? Well, don't think of it like a piece of software or technology you're talking about. Instead, pretend you're talking about a movie and market it exactly like one too. So why a movie? This is my first talk that I've ever given with a stutter, so thank you for the patience.
No worries. We're good.
Don't worry.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. All good. If you can. I appreciate it. It's on up. Okay. So why move? So what are the challenges that you and movie studios have in common? Well, you need to excite a global audience with diverse backgrounds and tastes into actually coming in and seeing your project. Secondly, the competition is ruthless to stand out, making your project extremely difficult to do so. You know, however, thankfully, there is a playbook that movie studios and distributors use to create excitement for their project, and you should try it for your own project too. Thank you. All right, so in particular, I'm going to focus on two critical aspects that studios use to create excitement and buzz for their movies, and why you should do the exact same thing too. Your tagline and your trailer. All right. So as we said, the competition to actually get you to watch a movie is pretty intense. On Netflix alone, there's something like 3,800 movies on there, all fighting for you to watch them. Realistically, how many of those are you actually going to watch? You know, maybe 1% of those, especially when, thank you. Especially when there are an additional 1,800 TV shows on there filled with hours and hours of content themselves, also fighting for your attention. You know, are you actually going to take the time and sit through all 5,400 titles available, learning in-depth details about each and every one before you finally choose a movie or a TV show to watch? Of course not. Well, sorry. It's good. You know, yep. Sure. So that puts you in a very similar situation. You know, I've come across videos, but there's something like 3.8 million open source projects in general. Even with the Apache Software Foundation, there's something like 300 active projects alone too. You know, that's a lot of competition. The average person is not going to sit through each and every single one of those Apache projects that are on the left to find out more, especially when they know very little, if anything, about open source to begin with. So, well, film studios know this about their own projects too. People aren't going to commit to watching a movie without being nudged and enticed first. But with so much competition, how do you stand out and begin the user journey for getting them to ultimately watching your project? First things first, everything starts with your tagline. It's a 1 or 2 sentence pitch that is meant to intrigue about your project. At this phase, you have maybe 1 or 2 seconds at most to hook your audience in, or they're going to move on to the next project. Put yourself in the shoes of the casual viewer. They're going to browse through hundreds of different projects, and they're not going to stop and read a full description about each and every one. So you have to throw whatever you can at them to get them to stop on your project and hook them in. So some of the best examples in film history with Alien, in space, no one can hit you stream. Recently with Napoleon, he came from nothing, he conquered everything. But Jaws, you'll never go in the water again. You know, you'll notice that none of these taglines actually sum up what it is that these movies are actually about. They're just meant to intrigue you enough so that you'll stop scrolling and leave you wanting to learn more about this project. At this stage, you're literally just fighting among hundreds of other projects to get people's attentions, which is in very short supply. So what makes a good tagline? Remember, the goal here is to stand out by intriguing people, and you only have a few seconds at most to do this. You're not explaining what the project is, but you are playing on people's emotions to get them wanting, or better yet, demanding to know more. So why aren't you actually explaining what your project actually is? Take a look at the film, the Social Network. It's about the origins of Facebook. You know, a perfectly adequate tagline for this is the story about the creation of Facebook from launching in a Harvard dorm room to the tech giant that it is today. It works. There's nothing wrong with that tagline, but it literally tells us the full movie in one sentence. So this is what they did instead. You don't get to 500 million friends without making a few enemies. Now, which of those taglines would you actually want is going to get you to want to take that vital first step and learn more? Probably this one. I was working on a new feature for one of Intercluster's open source technologies, and I finally settled on this for my tagline. You won't need it for every instance, but when you do, you'll notice the difference right away. So why did I specifically choose this? Well, it's hard to stand out, even with an established and popular open source tech like this one is. So I decided to intrigue people to it and leave the audience demanding to know more and what that I'm. So I knew that when I presented my tagline, when I announced it on LinkedIn and other social media, that this would be the only thing that people would see unless they clicked more. The goal at this stage is to get as many people as I possibly can to actually stop and check out my project, even if it's just for a brief second. You know, do I think that each and every who saw my post was ultimately interested in my open source project? Nope. But the fact that they chose to at least check out my project makes me more successful than the overwhelming majority of those other posts that they saw. Hey, you know, you have to remember, you know, none of these taglines gave away what the movies themselves are actually about, but they were still highly successful in building excitement and growing that audience. All right, for the sake of time, I'm gonna speed things up. So, all right, after you've established your tagline, you're gonna have to move on to your trailer. So you need to use this to convince audience to go on an adventure with you and play into that emotion of what they're missing out on if they stay on the sidelines. Basically, you just need to create FOMO. So step one, you just need to establish the scene. How did you establish on this project? What hooked you into devoting all your time into creating this? Step two, create the villain. That is, what is forcing your action? What problem are you trying to solve? Who or what is it that forced you to go on this open source journey? And then step three, end with the possibility of hope. What is the ultimate prize here? What are you up against, and how are you battling these? So a great example of trailers is the MCU, so the Marvel Cinematic Universe. These films, it's notoriously complicated to follow along about who's in what era, who's popping up when, all that stuff. But the trailer skips all of those details of that complicated stuff and leaves that for the movie itself. And you know what? It works. Why? Because they break each trailer up into the identifiable parts. You know who the hero is, you know who the villain is, you can see the problem that the hero is up against and the battle that they're fighting, and ultimately you're hooked on why you want to see that. You are in the exact same situation. There is a wide swath of people who aren't going to know at all what you are talking about, but you can still excite them with a trailer or an elevator pitch and get them on board to your actual project. So how did I create my own trailer? Well, what I so with step one, and in this sense, my trailer, it was a new blog series that I created. I said, things can and often do go wrong with data, but trying to plan for those unknown scenarios where disaster strikes is pretty much impossible. There has to be a better way. Step two, I created my villain. The cost of having storage and speed needed is prohibitively expensive. No matter what, you're never going to get the budget that you want. It's just too expensive. And step three, I created hope. What if there was a way to get the speed that we need and bring costs down by integrating our new feature into open source? If successful, this could be a total game changer. So I use this to hook people in to what I say is to get to my movie, which is get them to Instant Cluster, check out our product, play around with it, literally get them to that cinema. So I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You don't need highly technical details to build excitement for your open source project. You'll be writing blogs, making pitch decks, doing ads, all this, just having casual conversations, maybe even talking at a conference. It can be daunting. Trust me, I fully, it can. That's why I follow the same playbook when I learned when I worked in the film industry. Competition is ruthless. You have multiple challenges along the way to hook people in. Just remember the user journey. Stand out with a tagline, excite with a trailer, and get them to your final project. And just to end with saying, treat your open source project like a major cinematic event. The people you'll need to grow your community may not understand a single technical thing that you are talking about, but that's okay. Not everyone sitting in that cinema there is going to understand 100% about what's going on in that movie, but they're still excited about what's in front of them. You can build that exact same excitement for your own project. Just pretend it's a movie and watch your community grow. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think while the next speaker is setting up, we can have some questions. Vishal, are you in the room? Okay. So while Vishal is setting up, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, it was a very good talk and very interesting fact you talk about, about the storytelling and the movie part, and this can be implemented anywhere, not only the FOSS project, in your real life, in your content creations also. And thanks for this insightful one. Like, thanks.
I did have a bit more to it, but the fun thing about having a stutter is that you never know when it's going to show up and you just have to plow on a bit loose. So thank you for being patient.
Yeah. Just another general comment. So I've met many geeks who basically say that they don't read fiction, right? But I find that reading fiction makes you actually a much better communicator. And the one thing I realized only after like something like 20 years in technology is that ultimately it's all about the people. And if you're not actually able to engage with other human beings, then there's practically no point to any of the technology that you're building. So then I had to pivot and actually start focusing on humans instead. So some very good tips there. Thank you again, Greg. Let's welcome Vishal.
Hi, mic check. Thanks everyone for joining here, and thank you to the FOSSASIA team who has given me this opportunity to speak about what we are doing about FOSS community in India. So I'm gonna speak about our last 4 years, what we have done in India while when we are building FOSS community, the issues and certain other things. I'm not sure where the right place to stand, but probably, yeah. All right. So for a begin, I'd like to speak a little bit about myself. I am Vishal and I work full-time for FOSS United Foundation. I mention full-time because we are a bunch of, there are hundreds of volunteers who work with us in their free time, help us to build this community. Again, just a statement, we call it very proudly. So we are a bunch of folks who are passionate about building the FOSS community because we see a problem, in India in terms of the kind of culture that we have seen in last decade since the internet boom came. We consume a lot of FOSS. 100 plus $billion startups are currently in India, but very few contributes back. All these major projects that we use in our daily life, be it Wikimedia or any projects, mostly coming out of from the West. When I say West from India. And we are lucky that there are a lot of industry support that we get through funding, through mentorship, through volunteering. So some stats since we started. We have around 13,000 participations across the country, and this is just a beginning. So, we also have a FOSS grant program where we fund open source projects so that they can keep doing what they have started. So a lot of FOSS projects dies because the lack of funding and certain community around where they can showcase, probably, get users and then contributors. So we have been funding a lot of projects. Maybe these are a few grantees. We also fund organizations who promote the idea of FOSS or privacy, digital privacy. We are active in 17 cities. Like I mentioned, lots of volunteers across India who come and help us. We recently started our FOSS Club program where we are aiming to create the culture of hacking, building, because that's where everything begins for any software developers while they are learning, while they are in college, and an exploration phase is and that's the exploration phase, the college time, and that's where we want to strike. This year we are aiming to go to around 100 clubs. Again, this is just a number, it could go up and down. Right now, we are in 12 colleges. This is an experimental year for us, and we're trying to figure out what are the ground issues. So, for example, in the 12 clubs, we have only 10 active. 2 of them are not going well as we planned. So, we're trying to find a models which will fit into different colleges, different kind of colleges in India. So, just to give you an example, India has since the internet boom, and there were a lot of countries worldwide reach out. I mean, we have a lot of Indian companies who give service consultancy, tech based consultancy, and there is a huge demand in software engineers, and which led to a lot of people in the industry setting up engineering college more. So traditionally, engineering colleges are supposed to be tinkering, hacking, building stuff. If you take example of AI, MIT Media Labs, AI Labs, all of those started because of they felt, let's go and solve something through this engineering college. But in India, this has become a model to supply what is demand, what's being demanded in the market. So we are trying to understand the kind of college, the culture that exists in these colleges, thousands of colleges in India, and trying to figure out certain different models which will fit into these. I was talking to one of the guy, I mean, the TOR co-founder, and there is a university challenge. So we are trying to talk to as many people as possible and see what would work out in certain tier of colleges and what would work in different colleges. So there has been, again, I mentioned, a lot of industry support we have been seeing in these last 4 years. So again, I would be interested. I mean, we cannot figure out. I mean, we could keep doing what we are doing so far. So we realize after 4 years that we are missing a lot of key issues. We are not going through this. So this is just an we are very agile team. We are a very small team, where we accept every single day if we're doing any mistake or trying to learn from it. So we felt that the kind of community that we have created so far is probably the elite group who talks in English, and we are discarding the set of people who do not understand or speak English, which is a huge problem. Maybe I got lucky that I went to a college where people, I had to learn English to speak. But imagine a place where nobody speak English, a state where nobody speak English. Let's take example of where small city where people speak in their local language in their colleges. So to include them in our community is a pretty much hard problem. So one key issue of India is that we have 22 major languages, and what we are trying to do is one language for all, basically saying just one distro of Linux. I don't think people will agree here, right? So there are every single year there is a new distro coming. I'm using Pop OS. I was using something else like a year back, and then something else a year back. So we are trying to create a local one different distro of community, and then plugging how we can leverage the existing group which we have built already. And then so we have started creating explainer videos where in local languages. So that is one issue, the demography, the culture, different parts of India. Again, this is just a challenge we have found out, the issue we have found out. We haven't worked on it. It's still process, work in progress. The education system I was talking about, the scale in the number of colleges which started in recent years, recent decade, because of the demand from the market. This has created certain problems where people without understanding, who don't know what is engineering, are signing up for engineering. So it's become a big problem. So maybe I'll talk about the solution, probably what we are thinking about it in the next slide. And then another big challenge we saw was there are a lot of group in India, tech groups in India, who build FOSS, but they are fragmented. They are working in silos, not connected well with the rest of the community, who could mentor them, fund them. So when we started the FOSS grant program, we realized that there are projects who exist in India, who are getting funds from different sources. But again, they don't know each other. We don't know each other because of the whole demography. If I travel from New Delhi to Trivandrum, it's a almost 3.5 hour flight. I came to Vietnam from Kolkata, it's 2 hour flight. So India itself is huge. I mean, people find it difficult to go and meet others. So that's what we are trying to bridge. But yeah, this is one of the problem we found. And the rise of non-FOSS groups. For example, there are certain technologies who have presence in colleges, for example, and promoting non-FOSS tools. Let's say certain I don't want to put the name, so I'm just trying to figure out the right way to put it. So there are a lot of databases, for example. So it's very easy to plug and use database, and then you'll build a good software. But then the students don't realize, or the developers don't realize, that there will be time where it will become a bottleneck in terms of finance or moving out to another system, basically open source system, where they'll be charged. They'll have the freedom. So there's huge rise in non-FOSS groups in colleges. All big techs, all the services that we use. I'll just put the name like Microsoft, Google. They have their presence in thousands of colleges all across the world, which is aiming to promote their own technologies rather than FOSS. Since they have done a lot of money, they could basically overshadow what exactly engineering or any college is supposed to. So these are the few key issues that we have found. Again, there are a lot. Again, so I was talking about creating, having the local group where people learn through each other, through local languages or through local contents, not necessarily English. So one thing, for example, in India, around early 2000, there were a group of people who started who started building, translating Linux into local languages. For example, we have in a lot of things we see, if any of you have read about the kind of options when you install, let's say you install Ubuntu, you see a lot of languages option. And these all are results of lot of localization movement happened, which long back in early 2000. Bunch of people who spent 2-3 years just going to meeting people in the local area, let's say Goa, or let's say Kerala, and then made those translations over years. And then that, not just in India, but worldwide, you go and see in Chinese, every language, every Linux has a lot of options in local languages. So that's what we are trying to do with the community and the content that exists on internet. Not just content, but quality content. So again, this is just what we have learned in the last 4 years, that what we are focusing on our elite group, and this applies for any other country, not just India. So another thing is, when I was in college, I'm talking about continuous mentorship. Let's say I had a roommate who I used to ask him, from the first day in college, he used to start building a lot of games. And I got curious. I bought the same laptop he bought without giving a second thought. And I used to ask him, hey, can you help me to make this snakes? There was very nice, beautiful UI for the one game. And I used to ask him, he's like, no, just go on internet search. And I used to feel very pissed off. There was a better way to deal with it, but I think I learned the very hard way. But I believe there are better ways, at least for the people. Like I said, the problem with India is not everybody, or to be very precise, most of us join engineering college because we see a lot of job opportunities. That's the harsh reality. So a mentorship is something which comes in the picture. And with the FOSS United, we have a lot of people. For example, we have a booth here, and I posted on Twitter that we are looking for people to volunteer who can come and help us at the booth, even though it's not active. I'm roaming around, but the idea is there are a lot of people in India who are ready to travel to help others without just volunteering, not for money. So there are huge interest in people who are looking to help. It's just a matter of bridging those groups who are looking for help and the group who needs help, basically. The group who wants to help and the group who requires help. So we are just trying to become a bridge, either by talking to these both groups, or just creating a platforms where they can directly match and talk. Of course, welcoming community is very must. Like I said, the flatmate, the roommate I had, I didn't still like him because of that fact. And still, whenever I text him, he says, "Yeah, can you just search on Google?" Yeah, I mean, I pretty much sense that we need a welcoming community where we don't feel like, okay, I'm an outsider or I could not do this. So the way we have been achieving what we have achieved so far, I was showing you the stats, the community, the cities, the mentor, is through regular catch-ups like FOSSASIA Summit. So we do monthly events in most of the cities every month almost, and there are regional conferences, and then there is India-wide flagship events like FOSSAC, India FOSS, and where people come and showcase what they are building, their network. They either look for, so there are a lot of opportunity either for the grant, or there are a lot of VCs who come and invest in those projects. And through the regular meetups, we are trying to connect these people and make people aware what are being built, what they can use. For example, so there are a lot of open source projects coming out for the API testing. For example, there is a Bruno, there is Hopscotch, Insomnia, Postman, we all know, right? So Postman, these all are Postman's FOSS alternative. So one of the project, Bruno, they got popular overnight. I mean, multiple times they got trending #1 on Hacker News. How many of you know Hacker News? Nice. So they got viral couple of times. So they were struggling a lot for. It was just one person, so he was struggling a lot for like 2-3 years, but could not find right kind of attention. But then couple of night, a lot of people started talking about it on the Hacker News post, and then all of a sudden he has like I guess 18K stars. It's a real genuine project where people didn't find in. Could not find in other projects like Insomnia or Hopscotch. So, oops, I think my time is over. I will set up. So I'll just quickly go through the programs through slides. So we have a regular meetups where we invite people to come and speak, like FOSS Asia. I mentioned about FOSS clubs. We have forums like we have Discord setup, we have Telegram, we have a few groups on WhatsApp where the local do not do not want to go to out of Telegram. So it's all completely up to the local folks who wants to have this community, and then through the main channel they connect with the outer world. So we have grants to support events like any events like a hackathon or conferences, and we also fund projects grants through partners or directly. So again, I was talking about we are reaching out to more cities now, not just tier 1, small towns wherever there are some group who are working on tech, building tech. We're trying to reach to those groups. They're quite potential, like I believe. And we have seen a lot of results in last few years because of people experimenting with what others are doing and probably end up building some FOSS tools. It could be utility, not necessarily on the scale of Wikimedia. Yeah, scaling FOSS Club. I mean, there's huge interest coming in as people are getting to know about. Okay, we have programs like FOSS Club. we are focusing. We are going to focus more on build hacking, tinkering than just meet up, catch up, which we do a lot. We're trying to pivot from that, just catching to building as well. We lack women's participation. We are gonna, we are still focusing, but it's really hard to figure out, find out the right way to how we can increase the diversity, mostly women's participation. Yeah, I talked about educational content. That's it. I mean, it's all possible because of lots of volunteers, industry, academia who help us throughout the year. I'll skip this. So skip this. These are partners who support us. Thank you.